Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the LaunchPad Associate Workshop Series. We are delighted to have Paul Sumagaysay, Director of Instruction at Admiral Baker Golf Course down San Diego way. Paul is a 23-year Navy veteran who got into the golf profession after retiring from the Navy. He's been a Class A member of the PGA of America for, I believe, 3 or 4 years. He has a wealth of experience in instruction. And this is actually the third, I believe it's the third time that Paul has presented on the rules of golf in terms of the PGM Level 1 module on rules of golf. And we're delighted to have him back on the webcast. Paul, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the LaunchPad today.
Thanks, John, for having me. I really appreciate having this opportunity again. As John alluded to, this is my third iteration doing this. So originally I wasn't supposed to do it, but something came up. Tom, Son, and a few others here in San Diego chapter, we had our meeting today, and unfortunately the Carlsbad event, even though we did have the meeting, they canceled the golf tournament because of bad weather. And I'm happy to report that Tom was basically nominated and was presented today the PGA Professional of the Year here for the San Diego chapter. So kudos on him. So everyone's basically thrilled that I'm not sure if he's going to make it today. He's probably out celebrating, having a few adult cocktails, but congrats on him.
Yeah, Tom's son's the general manager at Arrowwood down in San Diego, and actually in Oceanside, and he has been instrumental in the in forming the mentorship committee as a subcommittee of the education committee for the Southern California section. And what Tom has been doing over the last year and a half with mentorship, pairing mentors with mentees, and really serving as a networking catalyst for new associates in the section is just really unprecedented work. And he's well deserving of the Golf Pro of the Year for the San Diego chapter. So I'll reach out to Tom. That's fantastic news.
Awesome. That's yeah, he's well deserving of it. One of the things he talked about in his speech today was he talked about 4 points, which is the recruitment of PGA Associates, so we can kind of grow more in-house, and then retention of the ones we have now, and then compensation, so really have the guys and gals get paid for what they deserve. And the very last part is education, so which is what we're doing today. For all y'all who are in level 1, the LaunchPad series is really a terrific opportunity that was not available when I was going through the program, but I can see how this is very helpful. And then you have also the mentorship program that he's established here. So that I see is going to grow more and more future PGA professionals here in Southern California.
And again, and Paul,
yeah,
just to acknowledge your efforts here, and just on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California section, thank you so much for doing this. We have 257 level 1 associates in the Southern California section over the 5 chapters, and 63 of which are unfortunately suspended for being on level 1 more than the 2-year time frame. So having these opportunities and these mediums to get the associates, particularly level 1 associates, resources on how to get through the program and how to meet other people that are in the same boat is tremendous. And so I just can't thank you enough for coming on and doing this a 3rd time.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And for everyone else out there, if they have any when I'm throughout today's brief, if you have any questions, feel free to just kind of jump in there, and then and hopefully we can answer your questions. So I'll go ahead and get started. So this is today's agenda. And a little bit kind of, I had some scenario discussions. I included the USGA quiz. That's going to be a pretty good discussion. And then really the agenda, I think, hits on a lot of things here. But one of the things, especially for you guys that need to go get through to level 1, is I'll talk about the PGM 3.0 level 1 module requirements that you can knock out fairly easily. Okay, I think the movie Top Gun is coming out. Top Gun 2 is coming out May 24th, I think, or thereabouts. My wife is a big Top Gun Tom Cruise fan. This right here, I don't know if you all seen the movie, but this is Tom Cruise riding his motorcycle, or Maverick. And this is actually at Marine Corps Air Station Miramar here in San Diego. And to the left is the brig, which is the prison, and to the right is actually Marine Corps Air Station Miramar Memorial Golf Course. That's where Grant Strobel and folks, and also Mike Flanagan work, and Heather King. Right there to the right are actually white out of bounds stakes. I'm not sure if you can see that, but yep, that's in fact out of bounds stakes right there. I grew up playing this golf course as well as Admiral Baker, and also the Navy golf course in Seal Beach that Tiger Woods talked about during his Hall of Fame speech. If you haven't already had the opportunity to hear his speech and what he talked about the golf course, it was super interesting, which I've never heard before, which was he talked about how his dad, because at the time on the Navy golf course, he could not have access because he was at the time 8 years old and was unable to play golf because you had to be over 10 years old to be able to play golf on the Navy golf course based on policy. So he was actually dropped off by his mom in front of the golf course before you entered the parking lot. And his dad would get off work at 4:12, and then he would meet his dad on the third hole, which was pretty interesting. So Tiger would essentially sneak on the golf course, and he would basically, his dad would tell him that if he heard any noise, to lay down and duck. So he would walk along this ditch, and then and stay still and lay low. And then his dad would meet him on the third hole underneath the bridge and say, "Hey, son, are you there?" "Yep." "Yeah, I'm right here, Dad." So he wound up playing golf at the military golf course, learning how to hit shots at night by feel. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was a really good story. So have that. I play that golf course, and for me, it's all about access, and the military gave me that. All right, so changing gears, this is the rules of golf. It was first established and written in 1744 because of competition, and for a prize of a staff. There was a tournament, and in order to have a tournament and competition, rules had to be established. So a set of 13 rules were established, and that was in 1744. And today, of course, two governing bodies, the RNA, Royal and Ancient, and the USGA, are the two main governing bodies, and anyone can submit any suggestions to the USGA. So it's every 4-year cycle. And we're still using the 2019 iteration. And it feels like it was only yesterday when we were talking about the new rules, having the flag stick and while you're putting on the green. So it come 2023, which is right around the corner, there's going to be a new iteration. I'm sure here in the coming months, we'll be talking about some of the changes. Here, these are the basic expectations for PGA members and associates. Okay, you can imagine if there's a tournament happening and everyone else is out and you're the only one left standing as the PGA associate with your name tag, that you're the PGA associate, and there's an issue that comes up in the tournament, the expectation is for you to hopefully find the resources necessary to be able to answer these basic questions or complex questions. So first, you need access to the latest USGA rules book. You should have that in your golf shop. Again, or the references gets updated every 4 years. Be familiar with basic definitions, and figure out a system. And I'll talk about downloading the app. You know, if you have like an iPad or some kind of computer, have that downloaded so that way you can be able to quickly search for some keywords to be able to answer some rulings. So there's probably at least 70 basic definitions. So you have to know what they mean, and always use the index. But again, with the app, it's a lot easier now than years past, when all we had was basically the textbook, and we had to go through the index, and we had to take a look at which sections refer to what. So that was very time consuming. Now, I'm making the assumption that there hasn't been too many changes with the PGM 3.0 level 1 module requirements, in that there's really two parts to it. And one is to be able to figure out a rulings issue on your golf course and then submit the video. So for example, if you have a golf course with a lot of ground under repair, then you can do a video about that and what needs to happen. You know, maybe there's some kind of local rule, maybe there's some like special circumstances where you have a gully or a ditch or anything that's very unique to your golf course. That's a local rule. And you can kind of talk about that and download that video using YouTube, and then upload the link to the level 1 module. And then basically, once you answer all the questions, and it doesn't have to be perfect, it's loaded, and you'll get, you know, basically almost full credit if you go through the rubric, making sure that you didn't miss anything. So it's very easy. I would highly recommend to do that. It takes, maybe for me, it only took a couple of hours, you know, and get that done, that activity done. All right. I'll talk about a couple of scenarios, actually 5 scenarios, and I talked about this last time, which was the Patrick Reed case at Torrey Pines about the plug ball. And this is in 2021. At the time, he had the lead. I think he had like a 3 or 4 stroke lead ahead of John Rahm and a few others, Adam Scott. And this is the last day on Sunday. And if anyone's ever played Torrey Pines South number 10 hole, there's a bunker to the left. He drives his bunker, or he hits his drive inside the bunker. And so for his second shot, he hits it, it goes way left of the cart path. And you can see the picture on the right. His ball is completely down there in the deep grass. And so what he does is he looks at his lie, and then he signals to his playing partner that he's going to mark it and he's going to check to see if it's plugged. And this is before calling any rules officials. At the time, the rules official, there was a PGA rules official. His name is Brad Fable. He wasn't there on the spot right away, so they had to call him in. But before all that happened, instead of waiting and waiting for the rules officials to come and take a look at the situation, Patrick Reed marks his ball and picks up his ball. And you can kind of, in the video, I don't have the video here with to show you, but he does something kind of weird based on the camera angle in the back. He picks up his ball and then places it next to the cart path. And then that's when Brad Fable comes in. And basically, he's asking, he's like, oh, where's the ball? Oh, it's right there. It's like, where's the mark? And basically a conversation's had, and he was basically given relief for a plug ball. Now, if you look at the actual video feed, the ball did bounce and it did not embed in its own original point of contact. So who knows what happened, if there was another crater, or that second bounce created another crater, or Patrick Reed did something kind of fishy. And of course, with his before this, a few years before, was the incident where he grounded his club, which you can do, but he altered his lie in one of the events down in, I think it was the Bahamas, where it looked like he was adjusting his lie, but and he was assessed a 2-stroke penalty for doing so. So Patrick Reed has a history of doing something that's not the not the most honest thing. So he went ahead and did this, and based on his actions, if you look at the USGA app and search for the plug ball or abnormal golf course condition, he was entitled to relief based on the information at the time. There was I'm not sure if it was a spectator, but one of the marshals. So Pat Reed asked her if she saw a bounce. She said no, and of course he couldn't see it because he was well over 100 yards away. But long story short, he was able to get relief and actually won the tournament. Okay, Torrey Pines. Here, the app, this is the definition of embedded ball. So the ball is embedded when part of the ball in its own pitch mark is below the level of the ground. So that's basically based on what Brad Fable saw, that there was in fact some kind of indentation that was there. So, and that's the relief. So he did everything correctly, and it turns out he was able to get up and down and make par, and he was able to lift this ball. So more additional resources to kind of, was he allowed to lift the ball? The answer is yes. Okay, any questions on that? I know I kind of went rather quickly. The Patrick Reed case it's very interesting because it's, you play the game, you do the best you can, and you try to do the right thing. Did you do the right thing? I would have totally waited for an official before you change the environment and have that the rules official kind of tell you to pick up your ball. Okay, you can go ahead and mark it and go ahead and examine before you even touch it. So this is a little bit more current, the scenario discussion number 2, and this happened a couple of weeks ago at the TPC Sawgrass, the where to drop case of one Daniel Berger versus Hovland and Joel Damon. So this is number 16, TPC Sawgrass. So all 3 hit their drive basically in the middle of the fairway. And to the right, see this white line right here? That's to the way right is it's Daniel Berger's ball, so he's away. And then the middle right here is Hovland's, and then Joel Damon's to the left. Okay. In this case, Berger hits his second shot, so I think he's about 230 yards out. And at the time, Cameron Smith was leading the tournament. He was at -11, Paul Casey -10, and Hovland was -8, and Berger was at -7, and then Joel Damon was at -3. So those guys were basically almost inside the top 10, with the exception of Joel Damon. So a lot of money at stake. So this is Sunday, and Berger hits his drive. What it looks like, and you kind of see that blue track line. Left of the flag, it appears from this perspective, and then it goes over to the right, moves to the right, so he fades and slices it, and it goes into the water. Okay, so now the question is where to draw. So without even consulting to his playing partners, Berger immediately walks over. There's a tree right there left of the fairway inside 100 yards, so it's like closer to 70 or 80 yards. So he's walking, and then basically his two other playing partners, hey buddy, that's not where we saw the ball entered the hazard. It's from this perspective. It's a lot further back. It's like closer to like 150 or back where the X is. is what they're saying. So well outside of what he thought. And then Berger going back and forth. No, from my perspective, I've never taken a bad lie. This is where I see it. So a lot of subjectivity here, a lot of gray area, and a lot of money in the line. So then, of course, they call it rules officials. Rules official contacts media and asks if there's any hard evidence. And so there was nothing other than right here, some of this perhaps, but it's hard to tell. And the two other gentlemen, I'm making the assumption that they were standing right behind their ball, right? So a totally different, I'm not going to say, they weren't right behind Daniel Berger's line, but they're offset. So from their angle, may look a little different than from Daniel Berger's perspective. So a lot of kind of going back and forth. So ultimately they met halfway and he was able to drop inside the 100 yards right there. Berger winds up making bogey, and Joel Damon makes birdie, and Hovland makes par. So a lot of kind of going back and forth, a lot of, hey, as your playing partner, I'm here to protect the field. Daniel Berger, from his perspective, he feels that, hey, he did everything right. In his heart of hearts, everything, was right. So this is what he felt very strongly, but he didn't want to be the bad guy. And so they met halfway. Ultimately, it's Berger's decision where he should drop. And, obviously there's no other evidence, but, and at the end of the day, he made that decision, and then he was able to move on from this issue or incident. John, how are we doing so far? Any questions from the group on this?
That discussion right there, I believe that Berger was correct. Because if you look at the shot tracer, it was actually off from where his ball went. When he hit the ball, it looked like it went left center away from that trap. Because if you look where the actual ball lands, look how far up it is and close it is near the green. If it was where they said it was, it would have been cut further right and outside, even further right of that target where it dropped. Especially with a slice.
So I highlighted the fact that the two other gentlemen were left of where his ball, unless there were all three of them were in the same line of path line. It's hard to make that argument that, because the other two guys were making the argument that the ball started right of the flag.
Where if you go back and you look at the video right behind him, it shows clearly that where the ball started and where that tracer was, the ball started left of that tracer. It was closer towards between the tracer and the tree. And when it cut around that corner, if you look at the landing spot, it is well left of where it would have been if it started on that tracer cutting.
Right.
It would have ended up further right and shorter. But where the ball dropped, it would have been further left and cutting across to land closer towards that sidewall.
The PGA Tour official ultimately said, "You guys need to figure this out."
I think it should be up to the player, even though they said, "Well, we think this." If he thinks that's a drop, he's obviously not trying to drop. It's supposed to be what, gentleman's sport. He's not trying to cheat, but ultimately he should be able to make that decision. And based on it, if he didn't know where it went, then he can ask the other two. But ultimately it was his decision.
Right. Yeah. Any other comments or interesting observations from the rest of the group on this particular discussion? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So we're going to move on to this other interesting scenario, the immovable obstruction in the penalty area. You guys remember Happy Gilmore? You got to play the ball as it lies. The picture right here with the ball inside the hazard on top of the sprinkler head is not a very smart way to mark a golf course. That could seriously cause damage and injury to the player and cause damage to the sprinkler head. So you know, if you work on the golf course, you know, one of the things is to just have these observations and have a discussion with your course superintendent. It's like, hey, I don't think this is a good place, you know, to have the to mark it, to draw the hazard line. It should be, especially those sprinkler heads, if possible, should be inside the playing area, not in the penalty area. All right, so this is an interesting discussion that happened this week, last week during the WGC match play. So this is obviously a match play, so there's some rules, obviously rules versus stroke play. So a lot of different, and that's one of the things, right? When there's a question about rules, the first question is, okay, is this a match play event or a stroke play event? Where, well, most times it's, you know, the ones that we're used to playing it, or we're used to playing is it's a stroke play event. But this week, in the spirit of March Madness, it's WGC match play week. Thomas Peters, in this case, hits the ball. I forget which hole it is. I think it's like number 15 or 16. This is at Austin Country Club, and the ball is it's nesting. It appears to be it's on top of a sprinkler head, but it's actually touching the red hazard, or the red penalty area right there, right? And on the other side, so it's almost like the left side is kind of like an island green situation. To the right is Bryson DeChambeau's ball. Similar, almost the exact same scenario. However, in this case for Thomas Peters' ball, the ruling, so the PGA Tour official was asked, "Great, what's my ruling on this one?" The ruling was you have to play the ball as it lies or take a penalty drop. Okay, so those were his options. Well, it turned out the guy that he was playing against makes birdie anyway, so he winds up losing the hole. He ultimately pitches out, doesn't make birdie, of course. So he loses the hole, but ultimately wins the match. Now, same golf course, same day, everything's the same. And I believe there were some discussions among the PGA Tour officials about this scenario, that if it does happen again, if something like this happens again, and I could be wrong, that that player can take relief. So this is match play. So I guess the moral of the story is that the rules can change if there's enough discussions to say, okay, we're going to change the conditions of play. And in this case, Bryson DeChambeau, his match, he was able to take relief, take a drop, a free drop, and he wound up having the hole. And I think he wound up winning this match as well too. So two different rulings, but it's the same situation, and on the same day, and which was really interesting. Now, during a stroke play situation, in this case, can't do that. Can't change the rules in the middle of play, because everyone's playing the same golf course. So that's kind of like the thing that I found most interesting about this, and because this is a match play situation. At the very end, the committee was able to take some green paint and paint that area right there, where now that sprinkler head is inside the play area instead of the penalty area. Okay. Any questions on that, or any comments? Oops. Okay.
I got a question for you on that.
Yes, sir.
The sprinkler head was still inside the line, though.
It was.
So how would it be where you can't take a drop from that if it's a sprinkler head?
Well, because the
Because
ball was
both
resting.
obviously Thomas Peters' ball looks like it actually is resting on top of it, and Bryson's is just off the top of it,
It's a
like
bad.
just on the outside.
Yeah, this is a bad angle. Regardless, both balls were touching the red penalty mark.
But wouldn't
Yeah.
the ball have to be fully over a line in order for being a hazard? If the ball is partially on it, it's still in.
I think so. Yeah. That's a good question. I have to kind of look that up. I thought it was partially too. I got to look.
Yeah, I
that
thought
up.
the ball has to be fully over, like on top of the line for it to be out, not partially on.
Yeah. Well, the ruling was it's both of in both cases was for Thomas Pierce. It was a penalty. It was considered in the penalty area, and I think both balls were considered in the penalty area. It was the exact same scenario. Is my understanding on this. But yeah, I think. Yeah, let me.
I've got a crazy rule for you that happened not too long ago in our ladies group. Two ladies hit their tee shots. One ball came to rest inside of a divot. The second ball found its way on top of the first ball in the same divot. How would you play that?
Can you say that one more time?
So the first drive lands, rolls into a divot, and the divot was deep enough to where the ball was almost fully in the hole. And then the second lady drove the golf ball, and it ended up on top of the first ball.
Wow.
I have never heard that ruling. We actually had to call, I guess,
Yeah.
the PGA professional called a rules official,
Yeah.
had his number and called him to ask him what the ruling was.
I guess to say that, well, first off, whoever's away has to hit first, right?
No, the ruling is that you can actually have the person on top hit the ball, and then the person underneath would have to put the ball back in the hole.
Right, recreate the original
Or
block.
the other person can hit the ball, and now that person makes a divot, and it could be even deeper, and then
Right.
that person on top would have to place it in the even deeper divot.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always thought that, yeah, if you try to recreate the original.
Yep. Or I believe they said if you can recreate and find a divot that's close to the same divot, you could place it inside of it. Because now it becomes it's not an original lie for the person that's hitting from underneath.
Right.
So if there is another divot similar to it close, you could drop it inside of that.
Okay, that could be, and when you have a PGA rules official, when you call PGA rules official, and that decision is made and it stands, and that's that. you have that get out of jail free card, right?
Yeah, that was a crazy rule. I've never even seen that before.
Hey guys, I just looked this up, and I think Ron Robinson is actually on this webcast this afternoon, and he is somewhat of a rules expert. When the ball, if any part of the ball is breaking the plane of the line, it is in the hazard.
Yeah, that's what I believe too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's touching the line, if it's touching any, it's just like out of bounds. If the ball is touching any part of the line, it's breaking the plane basically, and it's considered in the hazard or out of bounds.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you can have the ball has to be completely over the line of out of bounds for it to be out.
Yeah, no, it's just like the goal line in football. As long as it breaks the plane.
Okay.
It's that Ron, your interpretation of that rule, is that the same?
Can you hear me, John?
Yep, yeah, we got you.
Yeah. Well, I think with a hazard that if any part of the ball is touching the red paint, it's considered in the hazard or
Yeah.
in the penalty area. Out of bounds, and are you talking about an out of bounds line, John, or
Yes, sir. Yeah, out of bounds, or even like a yellow line and a hazard. I'm not interpreting a differentiation between the lines, but go ahead.
Well, of course, the out of bounds is a little different. The fact that if any part of the ball is inbounds, then it's inbounds. So if you're using a line between stakes, if part of the ball 1/16 of an inch is over the line on the course side, it's inbounds. So it's a little different than the
Different than a lateral.
the penalty area line. I think it's also pretty interesting that you folks are talking about these real current events. Going back to the Thomas DeChambeau thing, the rules people said that what happened there was that the wind was blowing when they were painting the red line, and it was basically overspray that caused those balls to be in the penalty area. That they didn't mean for that to happen, and of course, as Paul says, the match play is so much different than stroke play as far as rulings. You can end up with a different ruling, and in this case, probably the proper ruling went to DeChambeau. But those crazy things happen out there.
Thank you for that. That's thank you for the feedback. And yeah, it's very interesting. As a caveat, I'm not a rules expert. I know I've been playing golf for a long time, and things change. That's why it's always good, and I forget. And it's always good to have these references and go back and look at some tutorial videos and keep our minds fresh. So that's what I need to do after we do that.
Yeah. These are great slides. Great slides.
Yeah. All right. Talk about washout areas, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that plug live once again. The washout areas is very interesting too. So unless you have a local rule prior to the tournament and the event, you got to play the ball as it lies. I know these are like, they feel like they're ground under repair. But if you're going to have a situation where you're the rules official for a tournament, you got to make sure that you understand the golf course condition, and that when you have a situation like this, you have something to let the folks know that, hey, if you find yourself in this situation, that you get some kind of relief. Otherwise, that you have to play the ball lies or take a penalty drop. And of course, with the flattened burrowing animal situation with some kind of irregularity, unless it's completely marked, sometimes it's like, hey, you can make the argument. These are these gray areas again, that sometimes it's flattened. Hey, that's obviously that's a burrowing animal. If you see others in the area, you can take relief. However, you may need to have that conversation with your playing partner, or ask for a ruling on this. But especially on golf courses where you don't have the best conditions, you'll find a lot of these situations, and you have to make that determination. Another event that happened was at the TPC Sawgrass, where Paul Casey actually hit his tee shot on number 16, the same situation with the Daniel Berger case, where he was I think one of the leaders, and then he hit his drive, and it wound up. I've never seen this before, right? A pitch mark of a ball divot, but it wasn't his. So that was kind of interesting. It was laying, inside that divot, and then so that basically, in my opinion, cost him the tournament. Had he was able to hit his second shot from there with a perfect lie, he probably made birdie or eagle. But in that case, he was forced to lay up, and that basically cost him. In my opinion, I think it's
So
about.
wait a minute, wait, Paul. He was in he was an embedded ball inside a divot, his own embedded.
It wasn't his divot. It was a perfectly like a pitch mark, like a size of a quarter, where it was a landing area. It was a where someone hit their drive, not him, and that's where the ball landed, and then it created this perfect ball pitch mark, and his ball, after Paul Casey hit his drive, it wound up inside that divot. What are the odds of that? Yeah. So, but because it wasn't, and he was about to take a drop, my understanding, but then it's like, whoa, timeout. Media, they were able to use media to confirm that it was someone else's divot, and there he had to play the ball as it lied. So the ball was basically sitting down on someone else's divot or crater, a perfect ball divot. I think, maybe perhaps in 2023, these are some of the changes. You hit a perfect drive thinking, okay, I'm in a good position. And maybe it's time for us to basically take a drop. If it goes in an old divot or that, that argument's been had for 20 plus years, especially with the Payne Stewart case. I think when he lost the tournament, I believe it was the Olympic golf course.
So Brett Porath just shared a YouTube link. Is that of that Paul Casey drive, Brett? Can you come off mute?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It was it was very unfortunate.
That's on the chat for everyone to see. If you want to do click, you can see it.
Oh, I won't be able to. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you could probably get to it conveniently there, Paul. But anybody else can cut and
you guys can look
at it there if you wanted to.
I don't want to shut everything down now.
Hey, you're the one person, Paul, that can't go look at it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I'm limited. Okay, so the USGA Rules App. I highly recommend go to your app store and download this as soon as possible. It's a great way to. It's got all kinds of cool tutorials. This one's a little bit kind of dated. There's some fresher items in there, but it gives you basically a interactive, talks about the rules of golf, clarification, some videos, and some education. Here, I mean, it's very user friendly. As a matter of fact, learn the area by course. If you click on putting green, it'll talk about, and it'll a pop-up will show about. That'll kind of explain what that is, the penalty areas. So especially for kids, it's a good way for them to learn the rules, or someone that's new to the game. I'll just quickly go over a few quizzes. I think these are great discussion points, and you can either pick 10, 18, or 25 to kind of get you up to speed with some of the rules and test your knowledge, perhaps. So here I chose advanced, and I'll kind of read through this. So in match play competition, the committee stated that the match play is to be played from the middle tee markers. A accidentally tees off from the back tee markers on the first hole, and his opponent B sees this and tells A, but does not recall the stroke. A takes out another ball and tees off from the proper tees. A makes a 4, so the guy that made the mistake makes a 4 with the ball played from the proper tees, while B makes a 5. And A wins the match 1-up. And after the round, so no discussions after that. So A wins. After the round, B brings this to the attention of the committee. How should the committee rule? Any guesses? The match play as it stands. Match plays all squared should be continued from the 19th hole. B wins the match 1-up, or A and B are disqualified for agreeing to waive the rules.
Disqualified.
So I was like, I kind of didn't know, so I guessed, and I guessed correctly, which is the match stand as played. Why? So when you go through these, it explains there's rule 6.1 B1, rule 1.3 B1, rule 20.1 B1, and it explains here that in this very bottom part right here, it says I played the outs from outside the area where I'm allowed to tee my ball when starting a hole, the teeing area, or from the incorrect tee markers. What do I do? So these are facts. I was able to plug in there some of the keywords. So this is match play, right? So in match play, you don't have to do anything unless your opponent chooses to cancel your stroke and makes you replay your shot. In stroke play, you get 2 penalty strokes and must correct your mistakes by playing within the teeing area. So I don't know if you remember, I think it was Jordan Spieth, and I think someone else made that, and that was in stroke play. So they were assessed two stroke penalty, teeing off from the wrong spot. But in match play, you don't have to do anything unless your opponent chooses to cancel your stroke. In the case after the hole was finished, it was never it was never brought up. So in that case, the match stands as played. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Second one, A and B are playing a singles match. At the 7th hole, B hits his tee shot 70 yards into an area of tall grass. After searching for 1 minute, B states that he is going to return to the teeing area to play a provisional ball. After B plays again from the teeing area, A finds the ball or B's ball within 3 minutes of the start of the search. And B picks up his second ball and places his original ball into the putting green. A scores a 6 on the hole. B takes 2 putt to finish the hole for a total of 4 strokes. And before either makes a stroke from the next tee, A questions B's action and makes a request for a ruling. So what's the ruling? So again, B hits his tee shot into the tall areas. They look for it. And then so after 1 minute, B states that he's going to return to the teeing area, plays a provisional. And after B plays again from the teeing area, the ball is found within 3 minutes. So what's the ruling in this case? Does A win the ball or win the hole?
Sounds like B wins it, but because he's basically deeming his ball lost and hitting a new ball, even though he found the ball. I mean, he took only a minute, so you have the option to play to get the 3 minutes.
Right.
I would say he took 1 minute and decided he's going to play the ball. Once he played that ball, that's playable. That's it.
Well, he didn't hit his. So after searching for 1 minute, he states that he's going to return. So he never hits his.
The only other rule I knew about was back in the day, if you hit a second ball and you found your other ball, you could play your original ball as long as you don't play the second shot of the second ball.
This is almost the same scenario as what you're talking about just now.
Yeah.
So they search for it 1 minute. So they're well inside the 3 minutes. He just goes back and he hits another from the original teeing area. But then his opponent playing partner finds his ball, original ball.
So probably be the same.
So B wins. So in this case, the way they have it here, and I guess too. I just said this sounds to me that he was inside the 3 minutes. So I say that B wins the hole. So the guy that originally played, plays it provisional, so it's well inside 3 minutes, and that's the.
Okay.
And then if you look right here, so so ball used in play of a hole. So again, going back, and what I did was I looked for 18.2 alpha, ball used in play of a hole. So substitution of another ball, but here, actually, okay, here you go. This is the same scenario. A player's original ball played from the team area may be lost in the bush. So player announces the player plays a provisional ball and comes to rest at point A, as point A is farther from the hole. Actually, it's when provisional ball must be abandoned. When your provisional ball has not yet become in play, it must be abandoned in either two cases. When your original ball is found on the course outside of the penalty area before the end of the 3 minutes. And that's the right here. So the key is if it's found inside 3 minutes that he was able to, it's no different than
He
if
didn't
you
say he was playing a provisional though. He went and searched and then just hit another shot. Wouldn't you have to play the provisional first before it?
so that's the question, right? So
Okay, so it says provisional right there.
yeah,
Okay.
play provisional. So he does declare the provisional. I know it's kind of a little bit confusing, but that the whole kind of thing to it was a kind of like the 3 minute scenario, the 3 minute.
I remember the 5. I mean, it was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I remember it.
All right. Any questions on that? And I think I got a few more minutes here, so I know we're reaching the 5 o'clock hour. So just going back and recapping the stuff that we talked about, really kind of know who your subject matter expert is for at your golf course. It could be you. I would recommend signing up for the USGA Rules Workshop. That's very easy to do, or you can just kind of go through these quizzes and have a nice discussion with your other cohorts and associates and talk about the rules and go through that. Have copies of the rules book around the shop, train others and have a discussion. All right, so that's it. And that was me back in the day when I wore the yellow cap on an aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington. And this is me now. Well, it's kind of like the same thing, right? So I'm looking for bogey golfers.
I knew, Paul, I knew it was only a matter of time before you referenced Top Gun,
Well,
being a Navy guy from San Diego.
yeah, I mean,
You're counting the days till that gets released.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for that discussion. I appreciate the feedback and any questions you have for me, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to have a discussion. And hopefully, for all the PGA associates here online, I recommend, reaching out to your mentors or whoever that may be and having that discussion about rules and knock out your, all your PGA 1 level. It doesn't have to be perfect, and just have some substance in there, because the sooner you get that done, the more you feel like you've accomplished and reaching your goals. So, okay.
Hey, and Paul, what's your one parting piece of advice in terms of the rules of golf testing module for level 1? What's your biggest piece of advice in terms of preparing for that exam? Okay,
good question. One of the things is, well, when you take the exam, and I believe this is for the entrance exam. This is before level 1. You're able to. So a lot of these guys have already taken that, and I don't believe there's a rules question during level 1. The way I went through with the 3.0 module, it was basically the introduction. So and you and you can bring with you a hard copy of the latest rule book. So yeah, there was no rules question during the exam, so that's good. Makes life easier for sure.
All right, everybody, on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, we'd like to thank Paul Sumagaysay for his time this afternoon. And we will be uploading the recording of this LaunchPad onto the scpga.com website. On the LaunchPad landing page on the education dropdown, you'll see all the LaunchPads and the Catalyst webinars archived there for your reference. And we have 2 more installments of the spring LaunchPad next Monday and the following Monday. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the LaunchPad. It's really gotten a lot of legs since we started marketing the series to the neighboring sections beyond just the Southern California PGA, the Northern section, the Southwest, Nevada, and also Hawaii, the Aloha section as well. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for supporting it. Paul, thanks again. Take care, everybody. Have a great time. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, John. Be safe.